Welcome back, folks. My name is Michael Yates, and this is the Ridgeview Pod. We're always glad that you've chosen time to spend with us. If you haven't already, please subscribe and give us a like sign, and that way you'll receive notification for each and every podcast that we publish. My guest today, Melanie O'Dowd. Welcome.
Hello.
It's so nice of you to be here. This is long overdue, Melanie. I believe we were supposed to first do this to talk about this little object back in December. And
Yes.
things like holidays and New Year and then illness, bad weather, you name
Travel.
it. Travel. One thing or another led to us having to postpone and reschedule, but it does not diminish the importance of why we've carved out time to talk about this award, you, and why it's important to celebrate it. So let's first kind of do the time travel, go back and, what got you into this field of community service, of behavioral health care?
So I feel like I've always liked helping people. And you know how you take those little tests in high school to kind of figure out what your niche is and what you can do well. And all of mine came back like some form of social work or some form of the helping fields. So that was, I guess, the real first start of it. And then I've always worked with kids. I've babysat, I've worked at summer camps, I did all that growing up. So when it was time to choose a career, I actually went into juvenile justice and criminal justice and psychology. I wanted to be an FBI profiler, and I actually started that route in college, so I have my degree for both, actually, criminology, psychology, and sociology. But then I got an internship my last year, or I think almost my last year of college, like 3 semesters before I was supposed to graduate. And I worked with 2 to 6-year-olds with the regional intervention program, so behavior modification, helping the parents with behavioral techniques and how to help with at-risk youth, even at that age. And I saw kids doing some things that as a child I was kind of sheltered from and not quite in a bubble, but I was like, these kids even act like this or know these things? And it just kind of opened my eyes to be like, well, why not get them when they're younger and try to prevent them from being on the wrong path or criminal in the future, or hurt somebody in the future. And I was like, okay, well, why don't I get them early and do prevention instead of recovery? But that's kind of where the shift happened. And then after doing that internship, I went back and did a second version of it, even though I didn't have to for my degree. And then that's actually where I started, I started in case management and with RIP because I loved it so much.
Yeah, well, wonderful, wonderful. I always like hearing about how people got called into this field or led them to where they are now. Your early description, I mean, it is so parallel to my daughter's, who is in criminal justice, did psychology, criminal justice, now getting a master's in criminal justice, has an interest in FBI-related kind of work.
Yes, so, I still like to profile, but I don't do it as often.
Well, I've tipped my hat to those of you who felt that early calling. I'm still trying to figure out, Melanie, what it is I'm to do with my life.
You're doing pretty good, though.
I think I'm running out of time.
You're doing pretty good.
Well, thank you. So what brought you to Ridgeview?
To be honest, it was a coworker. I was working in Project Basic already, but for a different agency, mental health agency. And she was working here. And then when she was about to move out of state, she was like, well, this position is closer to your house. So I was driving about 45 minutes to an hour to my location. And Ridgeview is only about 30 minutes for me instead. And she was like, why don't you just switch? Why don't you just transfer and be closer? And so I went to the people at the other agency and was like, I'll be honest, I said, you can either give me a raise to keep me and stay, or I can look into something else and go interview there. And she had talked me up a little bit, but she had warned me that Amy doesn't hire easily and that I needed to put on my best game face. And then I came in and did the interview with Amy, and she actually offered me the job on the spot. So I was very excited because I was like, I was heard you were tough, so that's a good interview then.
But when you're hitting a home run,
I already knew the program, so that was a bonus, I think. But yeah, so I've been doing Project Basic for 15 years now.
So tell our listeners, what is, there's sort of a Cliff Note version of what Project Basic is.
Yes. So kind of back to what I love is it's that early intervention piece. It's that early prevention, behavioral modification, and early referral. But this time we're based in the school. My last position, we were based in the mental health center, and parents had to come to us. They kind of had to find or be referred to the program. We're actually in the school to get those referrals early from teachers, administration, sometimes directly from parents that are struggling with behavioral problems, either at home and school, or at least in one location.
Now, you mentioned travel. You've done such a great job in your initial role with Project Basic that you found yourself being promoted into a position that now requires you to travel nearly across the state.
Almost, at least a fourth of it. Fourth of it. So as we expanded in the last 2 years, there was always what we called TAs or regional coordinators that helped us on the state side grant part of it. And so there used to be 2, and it used to be divided about east and west of the state. But with the expansion, there's now 4 regional coordinators. So I'm upper north central Tennessee. Right now I have staff in 22 counties that I help oversee with 3 different agencies involved. But then I also supervise here at Ridgeview our staff for Project Basic. So when I do site visits, it's fall and spring. I'm on the road a lot for a couple of months. My team, always is like, she's on the road again. Mel's traveling again.
Yes.
And if I don't answer right away, they're like, oh, okay, today's probably a travel day.
Yes, right. Well, I mean, at some point, we ought to have you come back and we'll do a deeper dive into Project Basic itself. But this particular podcast is really about a celebration of you and your accomplishments. So yes, I know I have seen you out
in and out.
Various. I think I'm trying to remember. Was it Fentress County at one point where
we just ran into each other and was like, wait a minute.
Yes.
What are you doing out here?
At a school in rural Fentress, Upper Cumberland area. So. Yes.
And that's actually one of my closer sites. So that's actually, for me, that's not the way out there.
Now, do you go as far west as Nashville?
It's kind of, so yes, it's above and below Nashville is kind of where mine stops. So if you know where Robertson County is, kind of up near the border to Kentucky, that's my farthest.
Okay.
And then I've got a couple that are below Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So this little... I hope our viewers can see this here. It's a wonderful piece of glass, so it may be difficult to see. But in December, Amy nominated you through the Tennessee Association of Mental Health Organizations, TAMHO, for the Emerging Leader Award. That's the name of it. We could probably take out emerging and just say a leadership award, but...
I joked later. I said, what else do I have to do? How do I get the leader part?
Right. So that was celebrated at the conference in December. Is when you received this. And what do you remember about that day? And because if I remember correctly, Amy wanted to keep it a secret.
She did very well. Usually I can kind of see past some of those and think something's up and feel a little off. But the funniest part about that is the other gentleman from Ridgeview that got an award, when one of his staff showed up for the lunch part, I was like, oh, she knew he was getting an award. This is awesome that she got to come. And in the back of my head as he's receiving his, I was like, I wonder if one day I'll get an award. And it was just like a fleeting thought of like, okay, I might try for this later, And then there were so many other people that got their start in RIP that as they were saying, backstories or doing other candidates and stuff, I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of people that got their start there. So when they started doing the little blurb about me, I still didn't realize it was me. I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of people in RIP. This is great.
This is a parallel story.
Yeah, I was like, this is great. They got their start in RIP. They did their internship. This is amazing. And then when it mentioned Project Basic, I actually knew I was the only person in the room with any ties to Project Basic. So I was like, oh, no. And I remember thinking, oh, no, and just staring at Amy, like, what did you do? Why did I not know?
The color of red just started going.
It did, because I was so surprised. I was taken off guard. I'll be honest, that's why I asked about the blurb later, is because I missed half of what they were saying. Because in my head I was just like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not prepared. I don't know what to say. Like I didn't know this was coming. I'm usually prepared. I look really laid back, but I'm definitely one of those planner types. So this was not in the plan. And Amy knows that about me, so that's why she started giggling the minute I glared at her. Like, I looked like evil, and she's like, we got you.
We had a lot of fun with the fact that I nominated Barry for his award, but I let Barry know in advance.
Yes.
And Amy told me, do not tell her. This is going to be a surprise. And I said, are you sure you want to do that? So
yes. I was even told later that there were staff that don't know me very well that were told, that little smiley redhead girl, don't tell her that she's getting this. And I'm like, did the whole company know and I didn't know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't even met these staff yet, and they know not to talk to me about an award.
It's very deserving. We were so glad you were bestowed this award. Even the other day, we were talking about, part of Ridgeview's mission begins where people are priority, and that is for staff as much as it is for those that we serve. So it is neat when our mission aligns with opportunities where we can recognize staff because they are a priority and very deserving. I even on no notice whatsoever, your words at the podium were very...
They made me cry. And I'm not a crier.
Which in turn,
made me cry.
You made me cry. We were all crying. It was a cry fest. Part of what we like to do, and I've already had Barry on to talk about his, is just take a moment, because not all staff, they see the press release or they see the Facebook post, but they don't get to hear a little bit more about the award itself. And this is a very competitive, you've got agencies from across the state nominating people for this award. So we're so glad that you received it.
And I was very appreciative after the shock wore off. I really was.
And one day, who knows, there'll be, we'll erase the emerging and we'll just simply say, surprised leader award.
Surprised leader, yep. Yeah, Amy did good at keeping that a secret.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I will definitely give that to you. Another thing we like to do is, was there anything just about your leadership style that that you would comment on that maybe is unique to you? I know when you go into a bookstore and you look at like leadership help books, there's over 1 million. But what might make your style of leadership, Melanie O'Dowd, unique to you?
Well, first off, I would say, based on what my team tells me, is it's the smiley faces on the emails. Like, not a lot of people add those bright yellow smiley faces to almost every email when there's a big positive or a even kind of neutral, hope you have a good day at the bottom, My staff even say that they've learned that if there's not very many smileys, I'm busy. That I'm not mad, but I'm busy.
Yeah.
So I think just that more, kind of like with Ridgeview, that more open door policy where they can come with any question. There's never a stupid question. I'd rather you seek me out for solutions before struggling with something for too long and then feeling overwhelmed or burnout. So just that kind of like you can access me when you need me, which is why they joke like, oh, must be a road day. It took her more than an hour to respond. Right. But my staff, they know that if they haven't, gotten something back within a day turnaround, that, they might want to call me and be like, hey, did you get this? But yeah, I would say just kind of more, since I've done this position for so long, it's more just that laid back. I know what they're doing. I appreciate all the work they do. And I know how hard it can be sometimes because we're dealing with little kids in tough situations and behavioral challenges, sometimes daily, putting out little fires. So, just having that just calm kind of, laid back, come and talk to me if you need to.
I tell you, one of the things that strikes me, and I've never had to do what you're doing, and that is being a TA, supervising staff that are actually with other agencies. It's one thing when all of your policy framework flow from the agency is relevant to all of your staff that you're supervising.
Yes.
But you're dealing with staff, you're providing TA assistance and supervision to staff that are also with other agencies, which I would think would definitely be a difficult thing to manage at times, and could
There's been a couple challenges, not too bad. The good thing is that the way the program's set up is that even though I'm supervising on the grant side of things, there's also that supervisor with them on just the regular agency flow of things. And so sometimes our policies aren't exactly the same. But I'm the one overseeing, like, this is what the grant requirements are. This is what the state says. So it kind of does lend to a good working relationship. There's only been a couple little kinks where, like, one agency will tell a staff, a CDS, that they can do something, and it's like, oh, no, actually the grant and the scope of services says this. And that's the good thing, is that not only do I get Ridgeview scope of service to look at, I've also got the other two agency scopes of service, so that I kind of know what was different. Luckily, there's not a lot of differences, so I'm not too worried. But I do get to see, like, if there is anything that agency had worked out different with the state. So it's not too hard. We did joke when I first got the other one, like there's one supervisor to deal with here, which is myself, so that one's easy. And then there's one supervisor with another agency, so that's pretty easy. It's a one person go-to. The other agency is a little bigger, so there are 3 different supervisors I work with, and then their director. So that one's a little more of the like figuring out, you know, which staff goes where and who to talk to. But you know, the more I get to know them through regional meetings, the more, you know, that becomes easier. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, that certainly stood out to me as a unique challenge.
Yeah, it's more like those partnerships and stuff is what we're fostering.
Well, one of the things we like to foster here is also getting to know our guests a little bit better. Maybe that's not just so nuts and bolts about the job and the role, but, you know, you as a person. And so we've got a few rapid fire questions that I ask guests. And if you will humor me.
Rapid fire.
Yes.
Yes.
In no particular order of importance. If you could travel back in time, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh, I would travel more, like for fun. Like I used to think travel was this big, expensive, you're not able to do it, you can't fund it. And I've learned, you know, as I've gotten older, like, no, you could spend the same amount of money by staying in town for a week as you could by traveling. So I would travel for fun more often.
Good advice. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Definitely a night owl. Had to make myself go to sleep last night by about 1 o'clock in the morning so that I would make it here in time. I am not, anything before 10 or 11 o'clock is too early for me.
I am embarrassed to share with you that at like 9:30, I am like, I gotta close the book. I gotta go to bed.
One of my staff one time was like, "What were you doing up at 2:30 in the morning answering emails?" And I was like, "I just didn't want to forget in the morning."
Wow.
I'm definitely a night owl.
To be young again. Okay, what decade of music is best?
Oh, that one's hard. So I grew up with like my dad's kind of music and the 70s, 60s and 70s.
Give me kind of a...
So like for the longest time, Steve Miller Band was one of my favorites. I have taken my dad to like Styx concerts and Blue Oyster Cult. So I love all of that. That's kind of like what I grew up listening to. He was a morning person, so you would wake up to music. Which was awesome. I'm not a morning person anymore though. But then of course, then I've got to say, you know, my 80s, 90s music is late 80s, early 90s music is definitely what I listen to the most.
Give me one band that you would associate with.
So I don't know if a lot of people know who she is, but Tori Amos is one of my favorites. And then I would say like kind of the angry girl music, like Pink and Avril Lavigne, old school, and like that was more like Sheryl Crow, like all that kind of music was like my college years and high school years, and
I'm tracking. I'm
aging myself a little bit there.
All right, greatest movie of all time?
I don't know if it's greatest, but one that I've just always loved and will watch it every time is Shawshank Redemption. Like that one just, the idea of how he played it and how, you know, that criminal mind aspect of it. So that, and then Silence of the Lambs is actually what kind of steered me also to want to be an FBI profiler.
I can see that. Good.
Those would be two of my favorites.
One book you would recommend?
Oh, any Stephen King novel is my niche. I read Carrie in like middle school and got hooked, and my bookshelf is full of Stephen King novels.
All right.
I know you didn't think that about me, did you?
No,
I was like, that one throws people sometimes.
I had a Stephen King period of my life. I still think The Stand is like one of the best books ever.
Yes.
But, do you cook?
Yes.
What's your what meal? Let me ask you this. This will be the final question. Final question. If you were to prepare a meal and you could invite 3 guests, non-family, living or deceased, to that meal, what would you cook and who would the guests be?
I like baking more, so I definitely have a good dessert spread.
Nice.
Yeah, so like brownies and cakes and cookies and all that stuff would be there. I would say, I'm trying to think of one. There's this go old school. There's a tater tot casserole that's a recipe that's kind of been in my family for years. And so that would probably be like the main dish is a casserole dish with lots of side dishes. But yeah, the non-family part, because right away I was like, I would invite my grandmother who's passed away. But the non-family, I would have to say probably Freud would be one. Probably Maya Angelou would be another. And yeah, I'd want like intellectual. I'd want to pick their brains and their. Who else? That third one's eluding me. I know, I'm sitting there still going, I'd like my grandmother to be there because I'd pick her brain too about a couple things. Yeah, that one's really tough.
All right, so this one seat is still vacant.
I was going to say, I might just leave that until the very last minute to see who could maybe Robin Williams. He'd come in and shake things up. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, because I thought he was amazing.
Freud, Robin Williams, and Maya Angelou. That does, it'd be an interesting conversation and entertaining.
Yes, yes.
All right, well, Melanie O'Dowd, thank you so much for coming. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you'll come back and we can do a deeper dive into Project Basic. And maybe talk about what are some of the cool prevention things going on in the school, certainly with the folks that you work with.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in, folks. Again, if you would, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring the bell so that you get notification of each and every podcast that's published. And take good care of yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.